Good morning and welcome to the 8:15 Daily Operations Weather Brief. This morning we have mostly clear skies with the exception of a little bit of light upper level coverage across much of our area, and that is in conjunction with warm and muggy conditions similar to our previous days that continue to prevail, with temperatures already having climbed into the 80s for today. And we did see some patchy fog in the earlier hours this morning. However, most, if not all, of that coverage has since burned away with that rise in temperature. Our afternoon highs for today will reach the low 90s with only a very slight chance of isolated showers and/or thunderstorms in the form of pop-up cells, if anything. And as for our winds, they are currently light and anticipated to remain well below any advisory criteria and continuing to be unproblematic for the day, with the only real headline, if any, being that we can anticipate yet another hot and humid day here on the shore. Now, taking a look at our most recent surface analysis chart, we do have high pressure and an upper level ridge continuing to dominate overhead, and that is enforcing our warm and humid conditions with those lowered rain chances throughout. And with that being said, we do have a cold front approaching from the Midwest, and that sits just north of our area this afternoon. And with that placement, that is inducing some southerly flow overhead, which is going to work to increase our moisture content and unfortunately push those dew points a little bit higher. And that may then lead to a case where the heat indices would reach, if not exceed, the 100-degree mark. So we do have a heat advisory queued up and ready to roll later today. Moving into Thursday, that ridge aloft will then begin to break down, and that cold front will move through from our north, and that will be late Thursday into Friday, and that's when we're going to see our greatest storm chance and overall coverage for any precipitation chances, as well as the chance for some locally heavy rain, especially given the amount of moisture that is available in the region at the moment. Now, that front will then slow down as it moves through, as it moves south, and on Friday, those showery chances will continue to linger as a result of that slowed motion. And then we start to see the cooler air on the backside filtering in, along with what we can anticipate to be some more settled weather, and that will lead us into a nice short little patch of much more pleasant conditions as we go into the weekend. Now, taking a look at our current weather observations, we do have some light cloud coverage at 15,000 feet, a scattered layer, and unrestricted visibility with winds out of the southwest at about 5 knots and temperatures currently sitting at 82 degrees and a relative humidity value of 82% and decreasing. Now, that brings us to our satellite imagery from this morning. We can see that very light cloud cover in the upper levels with a little bit of convection or light convection starting to occur down at the southern end of the peninsula. That is going to continue to develop, as is pretty typical with this time of the day. As daytime heating gets underway, we start to see that overall cloud coverage build in before later in the evening everything kind of settles down. Now, this is the most recent model run of the HRRR here on a 24-hour loop. We can see that we remain dry throughout the whole 24-hour period up until 8 tomorrow morning, so that's very nice. We do see some convection moving through the Great Lakes region. However, as far as we are concerned, we remain largely dry in most modeled scenarios. Now, moving on to the 24-hour risk chart, we can anticipate a little bit of cloud coverage as we move through the afternoon before we see clearing in the evening and overnight hours, and again, rinse and repeat, we'll see some cloud coverage start building in on the early half of tomorrow morning. We do have a little bit of color on the board for our heat indices reaching, if not exceeding, 100 degrees, and our winds are anticipated to remain rather light for much of the day, and they gusting in the overnight hours just a little bit into the morning, but still remaining well below any advisory criteria. And as for our temperatures today, they do look to peak in the low 90s. And that brings us to the short-term risk chart. On Thursday, greens across the board with partly cloudy conditions to begin, and then clouds building in throughout the rest of the day, progressively leading us to Thursday night when we can anticipate mostly cloudy conditions and the chance of those storms begin building in as that cold front moves through, and a low of 76. So we do have some color on the board for that, those rain chances, and in the passing of those storms, winds might pick up a little bit. And then Friday, similarly, especially in the early hours associated with that frontal movement, mostly cloudy conditions and a chance of storms and a high of 82, similarly colored. And Friday, we may see some lingering storms as the day progresses, again, due to the slowed movement of that frontal passage. But that is going to conclude the 8:15 daily weather operations brief. I'll be back at 10 o'clock with the 7-day outlook.